Welcome to Tony's and Lass's special edition Dartmoor camp. Now, this trip is going to be for the cheap skates amongst you out there, because you know it's quite understandable that some people, they can't afford hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of camping equipment for mats and sleeping bags, tents and stoves. I think that's the main thing. So what I've done is I went on Amazon and I bought the cheapest stove that I could find, the cheapest pot that I could find, the cheapest mat that I could find, the cheapest sleeping bag I could find, and the cheapest tent I could find. And I bought all of those things. Nothing was more than £25. At least two items were around about £13. And all of that comes to around about £90. So this trip is going to be using, not just pitching in a field or pitching in your garden and just showing cheap stuff and not using it. This 2-night trip is going to be using super cheap equipment. Wish us luck. Now, the one thing you may notice is that I have not included a pack in my calculations. Now, there's a good reason why I've not used a pack. I thought, well, I don't mind spending, you know, somewhat less than £100 on the essentials for a camp, but I didn't really want to be getting a cheap rubbish pack for carrying everything. So I really wanted to be using a really nice pack for carrying my stuff. So naturally, you bring your lightest, most expensive pack for carrying your cheap equipment. Now, I've done this for a very good reason. Naturally, I'm a bit of a fanboy of Mountain Laurel Designs. We can't go on a trip without Mountain Laurel Designs now, can we? The other reason is I could have picked up one of my Osprey packs. Indeed, I very nearly did. I very nearly picked up my Osprey Talon 44, and I nearly started to use it. But one thing I'm not compromising on this trip, because I do actually intend to stay out here for 2 nights, bearing in mind that I have got super cheap equipment that has not been used, has not been tested. Have you watched the film The Ghost and the Darkness? Well, in that film, the lieutenant, I can't think of his name, Patterson, Lieutenant Patterson goes after the lions of Savo with an untested rifle. Now, if you watch that film, Remington, played by Michael Douglas, says to Pattinson, when the rifle of Pattinson fails to fire, when there is a lion, a man-eating lion that is, pretty much coming straight towards him, Remington, Michael Douglas, says to Pattinson, played by, I think it's Val Kilmer, you should never ever go into the field without testing your equipment first. Incidentally, very good film, worth watching. I've read the book. The Lions, if ever you're in Chicago, we're in Chicago. Chicago Field Museum. Remington does not actually exist. Obviously, Michael Douglas stuck that character in because he wanted to be in the film. So someone else must have said to Pattinson at the time, you don't go in, blah, 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 blah. But that scene really did happen. So quite clearly, I'm not coming out here for 2 nights with untested, cheap equipment on the off chance that it fails. So, whilst I have got a cheap tent, cheap sleeping bag, cheap mat, cheap stove, cheap pot and pan, or pot and cup, normally I don't double up on things, but I have doubled up on, I brought a bivvy bag just in case. I brought my main cooking pot. So really, actually, those are the only 2 things. Oh, and I did, yeah, and that's it. I brought a spare mat in case the mat fails, and I brought a spare cooking system, which is my regular Trail Designs Sidewinder cooking system, in case the little gas stove that I brought doesn't work. Other than that, I've not brought a spare shelter, just the bivvy bag. So other than that, I've not brought a spare sleeping bag because the sleeping bag can't fail and it's not cold. I've not brought a spare cup because I can use the cup in the pot and thing. Anyway, we'll go through everything when we're in camp later on. I've only just started the walk. I've only been going about 20 minutes, half an hour. Wristwatch check, the Rolex Submariner. Anyway, this is a cheap, this is a cheap trip. I still bought the Rolex though. Wild About Watches, my sister channel. Go over there and subscribe, please, and watch videos on watches there. And of course, I use my Garmin Fenix 6X. And all the watch videos that are on this channel will eventually get shifted over there. Of course, I've been waffling along. Some of you might have turned off by now. That's probably not a bad thing, because if I'm using cheap equipment, I don't want, let's say, people who would do the wild camping community a disservice to be buying cheap equipment, misusing it, and giving the likes of us a bad reputation. This video is for someone who has never wild camped, wants to try wild camping, can't really afford, you know, massive, super expensive equipment, and basically just wants to come out in the summer when the weather is relatively mild for £90, £100, just to try wild camping responsibly, sensibly, taking all your rubbish out with you so that you can enjoy wild camping in the future and that the government doesn't start putting on more restrictions and things like that. So this video is for a responsible, cheap wild camper. And if you're not a responsible, cheap wild camper and you're going to leave your rubbish everywhere, go and watch another video somewhere else, because you're not welcome on this channel. Anyway, that's enough of my being unpleasant to people, but I don't want people ruining it, you know, for the likes of people who are responsible for, you know, enjoying ourselves out here. So I think, yes, I'm going to be using cheap equipment, but that doesn't mean that you can just buy cheap equipment and then abandon it somewhere. You take it home with you sensibly. All right, I'm going to carry on with my walk in that direction. My Garmin Fenix 6X, that it is approximately in that direction from the arrow at the top of the screen, and about 2 kilometers away. So we're not walking a million miles. This is one of my shorter walks as usual on this trip. We've arrived in camp. It's our spot relatively close to water, so Lass has already wandered off over to the to the watering hole. Actually, I might call her back because I want water in a minute. Lassie! Lassie! I think before I let Lassie dive into the water, I'll get my water from there first. Okay, so I've checked the forecast. I've only just checked it. When I looked a couple of days ago, the forecast was for sunny intervals, not too much wind, and around about 20% chance or 30% chance of a shower. And I've just had a look, and our cheap camp is going to be in for a little bit of a test. Lassie, there's a 80% chance of heavy rain, showers, heavy rain, maybe even a thunderstorm. It's quite breezy. I don't know what it is at the moment, but they're forecasting 25 plus miles per hour. So we're definitely in for a little bit of a challenge, but that's what makes it a little bit more interesting. Like I said, I haven't compromised on safety or comfort as such, because even though I've got cheap equipment, I do have some backup, you know, in an emergency, because I have no intentions of abandoning camp because of cheap equipment. I'm here to enjoy myself and relax for a couple of nights. So if there are any cock-ups, as it were, you know, we're covered anyway. The only thing I don't want to get wet, and that could be a problem, would be the sleeping bag if that got wet. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. That's the only thing I've not really backed up, but we could even work around that one, I think, being that it's synthetic. What I'm going to do, I'm going to break this video down into various parts. So if you have got this far, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do separate videos on the different cheap equipment that I have. Plus I will do other parts as part of this video, maybe as a day 1, day 2, day 3 thing as we, you know, progress. Well, good morning everybody. This is the second time I've said good morning. The first good morning, I couldn't have hit record properly because I think I recorded about 5 minutes or something like that. And then I went to look at the timer to see how long I'd been waffling on for, and realised that I wasn't recording. I did that last night too. It's a bit of a disturbing habit that I've got myself into there. I'll have to keep an eye on that one. All right, well, it's gone 11:30 in the morning. We had fun and games last night, but I slept like a log. Although, having said that, even though I slept well, my watch is forever telling me off. Hang on a minute. So you can have a view inside the inside here. You'll notice a few things here, and I will explain everything in a minute. So the watch says I had 11 hours 1 minute of sleep. That's a lot of I needed it to have shattered. Score of 85, quality good, long but light sleep. And then if I press the down button, and that gives you a graph of how you slept. And then if you press the down button again, that gives you your individual minutes. So deep sleep, 19 minutes. Light sleep, nearly 7 hours. REM sleep, nearly 4 hours. And awake for 46 minutes. I don't know what I was doing for that 46 minutes. You did not get enough deep sleep. This may impact your energy level today. So even though I slept for 11 hours, I'm still getting told off by this bloody watch saying you didn't get enough of that particular type of sleep, therefore your energy levels are up the spout for today. Well, energy levels are always up the spout today anyway, no, nothing new there. Anyway, it's just it's just fun to share that. All right, now then, when I did my video 45 minutes ago, so I woke up just after 11, the weather was dry, it had stopped raining, and I was able to pop outside for a minute. I had a pee, did a tiny bit of video outside, came back inside and wasn't recording. So you've got an extra 3 minutes now of me complaining about that I wasn't recording. Right. Like I said, I slept very well. I did do a video as a day-to-day video about about this tent, but I was still going to have to do it again as part of the tent video. So rather than going over all that again, I'm now just going to stick that as the tent video. So if you want to know about my tent and about the leaks and water getting in, and about how I had to jump inside the bivvy and everything like that, make sure you check out the tent video. Okay, that's about it then, because if I'm going to talk about the tent, I'll do that in a different video. So for now, I'm going to have another cup of tea and some more breakfast then. So you lot have just wasted another few minutes of your lives listening to me waffling along. Anyway, this is very nice. The highlight of the shelter that I have here is this rather nice MLD dog tap that's proved rather life-saving, I have to say, life-saving almost, and incredibly useful and comfortable. And interestingly, the bit that stayed the driest last night was the bit that was protected by a good old Mountain Oil Designs dog tap. There and there. You see, not a drop of rain on that. No rain, nothing. Just from one simple tap, no rain. And that's outside here. It's not even close. And then when you look inside here, you've got a river. Literally a river. Look at that. A river inside. A river inside my Chinese tent. Well, did we expect it to did we expect it to work? Which is why my sleeping bag is inside this MLD bivvy. Or non-essential items I've put down that side down there. So if anything gets wet down there, it doesn't matter. It's basically food and waste. There's nothing down this side at all now, just my clothes. All of my clothes I've put in there. So every single clothing item, day, night, anything I'm not wearing now is now in there. The only area that is reasonably dry, and even there's a bit of moisture there, because the tarp, it's not big enough to do a complete coverage. So it does only go so far there. And obviously there's a little bit of moisture which is getting in there. It's these seams here. It's these seams here, you see. This side over here, luckily, because I'm protected by the master Ron, Mountain Oil Designs, of course, means that I have protection. Always have your manly protection with you until around about this point here. So basically, this section here I've put all my electronics and everything like that that is, you know, critical, I've put over here, because let's face it, if I didn't have a tarp covering here, I'd be sitting, literally sitting in water. It still wouldn't be game over, because I still presumably would have thought to bring the bivvy. So my tent and my sleeping bag and stuff would have been dry. Maybe even without that, given that the sleeping bag is on top of the airbag and the airbag is raised off the ground, maybe I would still be, you know, dry in where I'm sleeping, and clearly clothing and stuff like that would need to go into dry bags. All my electronics, well, I mean, what would you do about that? You know, you'd have to put your electronics, you know, you'd have to improvise. You'd have to sort of pack them away in something like that, or grab another spare dry bag from somewhere, you know, and do something. But clearly, when your innards are as compromised as they are in a piece of crap like this, then you can hardly be surprised. Look, there's no point in complaining about this, though. You know, we knew this when we started. That's why I brought a bivvy. You know, that's why I brought the tarp to go over the top. We've actually got some sun coming out now. That's why I brought the, you know, the tarp to go over the top, so I had a porch and some coverage over the door so I could sit in the door. Because clearly the door, as I mentioned yesterday, this particular bit of the video was only going to be short, but the door angles, you know, angles downwards. You know, in a normal tent, this door would be like over the porch. So at least where this door is, your porch would be. So even if rain got in here, it wouldn't matter. But in this, of course, it is there isn't even a porch, which you expect for £20. And two, obviously the design of the door opens over where you're sleeping. So, you know, quite clearly we knew and understood that a £20 tent was never going to be, you know, world beating for Dartmoor camping. It was just curious to find out how it would cope, really. I just wanted to try something a bit different for these 2 days before my next trip at the end of. I just wanted to really chill out and relax this trip. That's why obviously I brought plenty of safety features with me. This and bivvy bags and things like that, because, you know, even if this tent failed completely, I needed 100% backup on everything. But it's interesting. It's interesting. Everything up here is just where even my toilet wipes are wiped, and that's literally just here. Head torch, just put the head torch over there. I don't want that getting too wet, even though it's waterproof. So we'll bring that clothing bag up here, my hat, and then that's nothing down there. And then the only other thing down there is the bivvy, and that's fine because that's clearly waterproof anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's definitely a good job that I pitched this way though, because if I'd have pitched the other way, and it's just fortuitous that it worked like this, if I'd have pitched the other way with the tail to the wind downhill and water's getting it in as it is, then where I'm sitting on all my electronics, even if I kept this side waterproof with the tarp, the water would just run down here. So we kind of got lucky on that I pitched it this way, to be honest. All right, I'm going to do another video on this tent in a minute. I've turned a 4-minute video into 12 odd minutes. So I'm going to get moving and have some breakfast and another tea in a minute, and then I'll talk about the sleeping mat which I brought. I'll go over this sleeping mat which I bought, which was very cheap. You can see it's getting wet even there, but that's where this dry bag was resting up against it. So I'll talk about this. I will talk about the sleeping bag that I brought. This I got from Amazon. I even bought a cheap sleeping bag. And I will talk about my gas stove. I bought a cheap gas stove and a cheap cooking pot and top. I did bring as a backup my regular cooking pot, just in case this failed, because again, I'm not going hungry. I'm not going hungry for you lot. I didn't bring a backup cup because obviously they can't possibly fail, can they? So I'll do videos hopefully between today and tomorrow, mostly today, on all of these individual items, how much they are, and what I thought of them, and I'll try and give them a Tony score as to how well they performed and which item is worth getting cheap from Amazon and which items aren't. My head's holding the tarp up, but like I said, you can see quite clearly that, you know, I've used the tarp effectively to give me a nice porch. All right, so we'll catch up in a minute. I'm boiling my water inside the tent. Now, don't ever do this. Don't do what I'm doing. Always take your cooking pot and cook outside. Because I don't have a porch, I don't have any wind protection, and because I didn't think to bring a wind guard, I don't have any wind protection. So when I was trying to cook out there, even though I've got the tarp over, it's giving some protection so I can put, you know, move in that area without getting wet, and it's giving some degree of protection from the wind for me. It's not giving enough protection for me to get my water boiling, and I was trying to heat water last night and it was like just taking for absolute ever. So when I bring it inside and just place it just inside here, then it works a treat, and it's coming up to the boil right now, literally just in that minute or two that I was talking to you. I turned it on before, so a couple of minutes. Okay, admittedly, I never boil my water. I always turn it off before it's actually reached the boil. That's how, another reason how I knew the Dartmoor water was safe to drink, because I was never boiling the damn stuff completely. I was just making it hot enough to drink. So I'm going to make a cup of tea, and that's the new... I'm just obviously not really moving when I'm doing this, because clearly it's rather dangerous. And then when I finish, just put everything back outside again. I clear this little space here where normally my pillow, this mattress comes with a built-in pillow. This mattress here that I'm using, which I got on Amazon, funding billionaires to go into space, I don't know. All this promotion that we do for Amazon, they should be paying us. Oh yeah, they are. Oh, by the way, don't forget to check out affiliate links. Nobody's, all these ready months later, and still nobody has bought a single thing from any of my links, or even just popped on there via my link and bought something else. because you don't even have to buy anything for my links. You can just go via my links and then go and get something of whatever you want. And if you do that, I'll get like 0.5% or something. And nobody's even done that yet. I've lost my bit of, there it is. And nobody's even done that I'm aware of. I'm surprised actually that Amazon hasn't kicked me off the affiliate program. It must be coming close time to giving me the boot, because I'm sure I did it around about, yeah, I think you do get 6 months. And I think I started in February, something around about that time. So if nobody buys anything, they'll probably boot me off in the next month or so. So if you are passing, just whip down, grab one of those links and buy anything that you want. You don't have to buy those items, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, if they boot me off, they boot me off. It's not that, it's not that important. Okay, well, this is the view inside, and you can see from that last shower that we had that you can see there that water is, I don't know what you can see, let's have a look. You can see there that water is running down, well, some running down outside, but some running down inside as well from that non-sealed seam. I must admit now, I'm kind of curious as to how this thing would work with the seams sealed. But I'll tell you this, the seams on this thing are shocking. I mean, look at the needlework, look at the holes in it. Don't worry, I think, whilst I am curious as to how it would go about with a seam seal, I don't think I'll be using this again. It's kind of like a fun experiment that maybe I've just found my first giveaway. Some cheap Chinese crap. Oh, it's not that bad. I mean, to be honest, you know, apart from water getting in down there, it's kind of quite kind of cute and comfortable, kind of. Oh dear. I mean, as Chinese stuff goes, it's probably not that bad. As Chinese stuff goes, it's probably not the best that's come out of Beijing. Mind you, it's better than some things that have come out of China over the last couple of years. We'll make a VA scene for this. Oh dear. All right. And I'm going to have my tea now before that water gets cold that I just boiled up especially. I'll see you in a minute. It's 5:15 in the afternoon. God alone knows where the day has gone. Mind you, I didn't wake up until 11 o'clock, but the day is passing by, as they say. Now, I've done a couple of separate videos. I've done one on the sleeping bag that I used last night. I've done one on the airbed that I'm using, which appears that last night I was using it upside down. Obviously, I'm doing one on the tent. I haven't done one on the pot yet, and I haven't done one on the stove yet. So those are two to try and get done either today or tomorrow. Although I must admit, I could have just not bothered using the pot and pan, because most people probably have a pot and pan. I just use my regular pot and pan, but the pot and pan literally only cost I don't know, 15-20 pounds, so it was fine to, you know, just grab and use as a, you know, to keep the whole cheap experience going, you know, it probably was worth getting. I'm just crawling out here. Let's just come out here and just have a look around. Okay, it's been raining, as I say, most of the morning. I'll give you one guess where said dog is. I think she just spends nearly a whole time splashing around in the pool directly above where I get water from. I haven't seen her for a while, and I think she must have been there for ages and ages, just splashing around trying to catch water. So we'll carry on and do our own things. I've shown you around camp, so I won't show you again and bore you too much, but it's been an interesting and eventful sort of yesterday afternoon and today. Heading back tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off here, and then I'm just going to do an roundabout for the tent video. Well, we're getting slightly squished by this monstrously cheap and really quite unpleasantly unpleasant tent. And you can't really blame the tent again. Dartmoor's just decided it's just going to get a slight breeze, and this slight breeze is just you know, dragging this thing in on me, and a slight downpour which is resulting in just another little puddle forming down there. And again, I'm sure most of it is on this seam here. I've packed quite a bit of stuff away. I'm slowly making my way through, so it's just a few bits down here. I think the next thing to pack away is my electrical stuff. I was just oh god, oh dear, I attached this because I was looking for this and I couldn't find it, and I've just found it now. So it's an emergency backup. All right, now normally it's just gone 2 o'clock. Normally, it has to be said, I would make a tea and sort of chill out. I think I still need to try and get that tea made. It's just normally when I'm making a tea in a camp, in a proper camp, it's kind of like a relaxed affair, kind of calm and relaxed. This is anything but calm and relaxed with this constantly coming in on my head now. It just shows that at least the last couple of nights haven't been too breezy, but that one was just decided just as I'm about to head back to throw a bit of a spanner in the works for me, which is just typical. Good old Dartmoor. Alright, so I'll do a bit more packing up. All my emergency stuff I've packed away, so my emergency airbed, which I never needed, I packed in there. My airbed I've packed in, that worked well. There's a separate video on that, or there will be if there isn't yet. My sleeping bag worked very well, very pleased with the sleeping bag, separate video on that. Cooker here, obviously I'll go back to my meths again in the future, but I have to say it was an interesting experience to use gas again. Probably the last time I used gas was, oh, that goes back way back. Even my early first camps, I think, was meths. You're going back to day walks, walking with Sue, when I used gas last, I think. So it was kind of interesting to use gas. It worked fine. I prefer my pots to these pots. I can kind of keep my pots cleaner. I haven't really done a video on these pots. But anyway, yeah, I use these pots here. They work fine. They work fine. I'll maybe just try and do a speedy video on those before I pack them away. But really, I just need to try and just relax now. Looks like the sun's popped out for a few minutes, so I think I need to try and get out of under here and just relax for a few minutes, which is not easy when you get bits of water ends up going on your socks, which, you know, you're going to get wet anyway. But all right, I'll catch you later. Testing. Okay, well, we've reached the end of the walk. We're back at the car park. I was going to say a couple of words. Go on then. Go on down in there. Go and have a drink. I was going to say a couple of words walking back, and I must admit I was looking at my watch, the Garmin Fenix 6X. So if you're interested in GPS watches and things like that, be sure to subscribe to my sister channel, whatever we're calling it, Wild About Watches. It's not just Rolex that I'll shift over there. I'll shift my Garmin watch videos over there, and as and when and if I get a new Garmin watch in the future, then I'll review that over there as well. I was going to try and follow the route back, which I did do on the watch as part of a sort of a separate video, because I'd like to try and do like a year on, because I've had the Garmin Fenix 6X for about a year now. So I doubt they'll bring out a Garmin 7, for Garmin Fenix 7 until next year. So I've got time, hopefully, to try and do a review on this watch, which I'd like to do. It'd be good to try and do like a year on review with it. So that's something to try and think about in the future. Anyway, like I say, we're back to the car, so, you know, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you with a new video at the end of August. But I've got lots and lots of videos to catch up on. I've got quite a backlog, to be honest, so I will catch up with those over the next month or so, the month of August, and see how we get on. Anyway, thanks for all of your support, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. And don't forget just to check back regularly, subscribe, hit the notification, because I think there's still one more camp from the end of May to do, June and July effectively. So there's a lot of catching up to do. Thanks for watching.